Okay.
Nice.
Okay, so that's who I am. I've been at WPI for 32 years, and again, the reason why I came here is because when I was in the Air Force and at the Pentagon, and I decided I want one more assignment in a teaching institution. I thought maybe about becoming a teacher after I retired, and so I applied for an Air Force ROTC commander position, and there were like 6 universities that were opened up that I could go into, and I looked at them. I'd never heard of WPI, but I started looking there, and they had something about sailing. And so I am a bit of a sailor, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then it'll give you a little bit of my background, so it'll lead you experienced guys to questions that you may want to ask me. And for you other folks, it'll just give you maybe a little idea of what sailing can be like. So I was at flying training in the Air Force, and when I was in college and in high school, I was an avid off-road motorcycle racer. I did motocross, hill climbs, TT, tourist trophy kind of stuff, mostly off-road. And I had a rather bad accident while I was in flying training, and ended up being in hospital for several months. And so my wife was looking around, Family Circle magazine, she had a subscription to it, and by golly, right there, she saw something. She says, how about you try a different hobby? Because she was tired of me not being able to walk, which I couldn't for some time. And so she sent away for that magazine, and I had a bunch of time, a couple months off after I got to the hospital before I could go back flying. And so during that time, those 2 months, I actually built a little sailboat. It's one just like this. It was called Circle Class. It's 12 feet long and about 4 feet wide, made out of plywood, car toppable. This is not mine, because this is back before we had digital cameras, so we didn't take a lot of pictures. But it was just like this. It had 2 lee boards on it, and I was stunned when I built it. And in the very last paragraph of the plans, which were like about 6 pages long, how to sail. I built a boat. It was fun building it, but I thought, okay, I'm not sure how this is going to work or not, and I was stunned when I put it in the water that it floated, which was a big thing. You want the water on one side of the hull, mostly on the outside of the hull. And I was also surprised it actually moved under sail. Now, anything can blow across the water. A leaf can go across the water, but what stunned me was that it could sail upwind. And here I was, an Air Force flyer. I flew as a private pilot, back when I was 15, 16 years old. We had an airplane on our farm in Oregon. And so I knew all about airplanes. But there's something seemed physically wrong that you could actually get enough energy to go into the wind. And so I was really surprised by that. So I decided to do a little study about it. And of course, again, all of you should be familiar with these kinds of drawings like this. We know this was the basic principles of airfoils. It's been drawn in many different ways. But basically, if you have a curved surface, which is longer than the bottom surface, and you'll have and it's explained by lots of different ways. Most of them are a little bit wrong. I do have a master's in aeronautical engineering, but this is a simplified version. If you take air and go over an angle of attack, the line drawn from the trailing edge to the leading edge is the chord of the wing, and as long as there's some angle between there too, especially if it's a symmetrical or asymmetrical, you'll need an angle on an asymmetrical wing like this. But at any rate, then you will develop forces coming from about the 25% chord point that are combined will be this. And those of you who are really careful will recognize that this, if it was vertical, it'd be direct lift, but there's a little bit of induced drag. It's caused, anytime you develop lift, you also cause drag. And so this is how airplanes fly. We know this. You go forward, lift goes up, little induced drag, which means you have to add power to keep it moving. But that's the way it works. Okay, but how does that relate to a boat? Well, if you turn it 45 degrees and look at a boat underneath it, now you're looking down at the wing. The same force is there. Now, all of you are engineers, I presume, or computer scientists, whatever you do at WPI. And so you know any net force you can factor any different sorts of combinations of components. And so if you look at that, it's pretty easy to say, oh, there is a component here which is thrust. And then there's another very large component which is a side force. Newton says, F equals ma. Therefore, I'm going to accelerate in this direction and accelerate in that direction unless what? Come on, this is I'm famous for my active classrooms. I want people talking. Why won't this thing continue accelerating forever in this direction?
Because other forces are
Yes, it's unbalanced forces that causes something to accelerate, right? And so, as long as this thrust is bigger than what? Drag. Okay, and they will accelerate in that direction until they equal each other, then there's no more acceleration. And so, similarly, and people forget this all the time, this thing is going to accelerate in this direction quite strongly unless what happens?
Another force.
Yeah, and where's the other force come from?
The keel.
Yeah, the keel. Or there's other ways, but that normally comes from the keel force. And so you can actually see, and this is drawn roughly proportional, the keel force is oftentimes much larger than the thrusting forces. Now, here's something that most people who are beginning sailors do not appreciate. There's two fluids that you're operating in. There is this low-density fluid, called air, and the high-density fluid, normally water. And they are doing the identical things. You're developing lift and drag on both of those surfaces. You cannot sail a boat upwind without creating a wing under the water. Cannot be done. That's the reason why sailboats do the cool things they do. So having this information, and I sailed that boat, and I was really surprised. For about a year I was in flying training, and I sold the boat, but decided I needed to get something cooler, because I was really interested in boats. Oh, by the way, last thing of this thing, notice that this is the way the wind's blowing, and I'm traveling this way. That means I am going into the wind, and this is what's called a close reach, if you're sailing terms. 45 degrees into the wind is normally what most people consider a close reach. Some boats will go higher than that. Some will go much less than that. That's typically what you'll see. So this is kind of a simplistic way of understanding, oh, boats can go to windward. Yep. Now, by the way, if you look on YouTube, you'll find there are some experiments with air propeller and water propeller driven boats where they'll go directly into the wind. Have you seen those?
Yeah, they're insane.
It's also, there's a land yacht that does the same thing.
Yeah.
So, it seems mysterious, seems like it's against physics, but it does work. Okay, anyway, so I sold that boat and decided I want something else, so we bought this boat. And this boat's the biggest boat that we could pull behind our Fiat. And actually, the Fiat only weighed 2,100 pounds, so with the trailer, this is like 3,000 pounds, so it looked a little silly going down the road, but I used to say I had a boat that go 55 miles an hour, which it would do on the road, on a trailer. But we had that for many years and really enjoyed it a lot. These are some of the data. It's 24 feet long, 7.5 foot beam, had a retractable keel, and so this is what it looked like underbody. This was a swing keel, cast iron that would bring up, and the rudder kicked up as well, so we could do what's called dunk hulling. You can go into shallow places. And anybody from Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon? Well, if you ever get there, Puget Sound, spectacular place to sail. Beautiful. That's where we had this boat, and you can go into really shallow water when you swing the keel up. So it was kind of cool. I did put a spinnaker on it because why not? I did change this for the experienced sailors. This is called a fractional rig sloop. Sloop meaning two sails, two working sails. This is a fractional rig, which means that the head sail only goes partially up. But in Puget Sound, it's a really light air conditions in summer particularly, so I modified it with the masthead Genoa actually, and then put a masthead spinnaker on there, which was a little crazy. They would lay on its ear right away, and it was scary with the big spinnaker, but I got one. It was beautiful. So we had that, and then when I went to grad school, I bought this 470, and I still have that boat. This is the one for 20 years here at WPI. This is the boat that I taught intro to sailing with. It was on my 470. It's a lot of fun. It's a bit bigger than a 420, 4.7 meters versus 4.2 meters. Ironically enough, if you don't know about the boat was designed in 1958 by Andre Cournot, and he designed it as a lead-in to the 505 class. Experienced know about 505s, 05s they call them. And that was, the 505 class was thought to be an Olympic class boat coming up. Oddly enough, it didn't really do that, and yet the 470 became the Olympic class boat, and it still is. And so, and it's the, until the 49ers and the 29ers came up, it was the performance a two-person dinghy, and they actually run it with women and men on that. So it's a lot of fun. Single trapeze boat. If you don't know what trapeze, this is the guy on a trapeze harness. You stand on the side of the boat. You're held on with a wire that goes up to the, actually it goes all the way up to here, to the where the forestay attaches. They'll do about, I just looked them up, and according to the official their maximum speed is around 19 knots. And of course, as we'll talk a little later at some other time, we'll talk about hull speed. You'll understand the hull speed of this boat's around 4.5 knots, which means that it's a planing boat. In fact, Gabe, I kept track of we raced this boat with one of your students last Saturday, and even though we had winds of about 5 to 7 or 8 knots, we got 10 knots at a couple places there, so we were planing. And it also has a big spinnaker. The blue sail is a spinnaker. It's about the same. Typically, a spinnaker doubles your area. I still own it, and even though it is a racing boat, and I've owned it for 40. I bought it in '79, so I've owned it for 46 years. I've only raced it for a year and a half. I've never raced it until this last year. But now I am. For those of you who enjoy racing, now I love it. It's fun. And I do single-handed a fair amount. This is on Webster Lake, same place you guys have your guys out there. I have a 6-foot tiller extension, so I can be on the trapeze there and go out there. It's a lot of fun. It's a bit athletic when you're my age, 76, but it's still just great fun. We moved then from Grassville to Hawaii, and there is no better boat in the beach than a Hobie 16. There are no centerboards, there's no retractable, there's no dagger board, nothing to break off. You can hit the beach at full tilt, which we did often. We'd be going 20 knots, coming down the surf, and just running right on the beach and see how far we get on the beach before it stopped. Every year we'd have to flip it over and re-glass the bottom because the sand would wear the edges of the keel of the hulls off. But a lot of fun. And we had 2 trapezes on. This doesn't show. That's not us. This does not have a trap. They're not riding a trapeze on there. And this is interesting because people will make the mistake of thinking this is a cat boat. Someone tell me quickly what a cat boat is. Alex. Yes. The definition of a cat boat is a boat that only has one sail. This is a sloop, but it's called a cat because it's a catamaran. And the definition of a catamaran is a twin equally sized hulled boats. Hulls like that. That's a catamaran as opposed to a cat. This is a sloop-rigged catamaran. So we had that for a couple of years, and then we bought this boat. We keep going up in size. This was quite a bit bigger. It had like 5 times more lead in here than our 24 boat had altogether. And we lived on it for years. We sailed around South America, Central America. Just before I retired from WPI in '97, the first time I retired from WPI, and we moved on this boat, and then lived on it for a year with my younger daughters who were 11 and 15. And then we came back and sold it. But it was great fun. It teaches you a different aspect of sailing. It turns out that if you learn to sail on big boats, you'll be crap on little boats. Little boats are so much more challenging to sail well because of mass and momentum and all that kind of stuff, and how quickly they react. You learn seamanship on something like this, but you learn sailing on small boats. Don't think you can learn how to sail if you start with a big boat, is my opinion. And here I am this is when I first got the boat, taking delivery. Notice the WPI sailing hat? You used to be able to buy those in the bookstore.
You gotta bring back.
Yeah, so, and the funny thing about this boat, it was pretty big. Actually, I said 38,000. We weighed it when we were down in Trinidad, and it was 40,000 pounds, what the boat weighed. But it had like a 5-foot diameter wheel here, and my 11-year-old and I sailed at 1,000 miles, just the 2 of us. We sailed the 2 of us from Bahamas all the way up to Norfolk, just the 2 of us. And of course, with a 70-foot mast is too high to go the intercoastal highways. You have to go offshore. We're 300 miles offshore, and you sail 24 hours a day. And she turned 12, my 12-year-old daughter. Okay, I got it she would take from midnight till 4. She's a night owl by nature. So she'd take the midnight till 4 o'clock shift, which was kind of fun. There she is in her glory. This is actually in a hurricane hole. I'm getting ready to strip it down because this was Hurricane Bonnie was coming through, and so I found this really neat small pond I had to get into during high tide near Dighton, Massachusetts. You know where Dighton is? Went way up there and figured this is a safe place for the hurricane. And the hurricane came, and at the peak of the hurricane, I was out windsurfing because it wasn't that big of a deal. But anyway, there was a lovely yacht. We put 9,000 miles on her in 12 months of sailing. Oops, I don't know what that's. Forget that slide. Okay. When we did a lot of windsurfing when we were on there, and then for my 50th birthday, my mom bought me this board. My wife bought me this board, and I still own that. I still have I have about 6 different sails. Windsurfers? Anybody windsurfers? Windsurfing is to sailing as hang gliding is to pilotage. Anybody hang glide? Gosh, I have no sense of adventure. Hang gliding is the ultimate flying experience. Windsurfing, I think, is the ultimate sailing experience, with one exception, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But it's if you really understand the balance and the forces involved with sailing, because a windsurfer has no rudder. And so it's all about understanding the sum of moments. MEs, who's MEs here? Good, you all know about statics? It's all static analysis. We'll talk about that too later on. And again, when they talk about displacement of windsurfers, displacement normally means how much water do you displace, Archimedes' principle. So when they talk about displacement in most boats, that means how much does it weigh. In other words, you float it, if you had it in an absolute level tank, you put the boat in there, and you measured the amount of water that was displaced by the hull, that's what it would be in weight. But on a windsurfer, and that's what I'm saying here, it weighs about 20 pounds, but actually the displacement of my boat's around 200 liters, which would be 200 kilograms. And so that means that's the total amount of buoyancy available. When you look at windsurfers, they'll rate them in displacement if you got push it down so it submerges, and that's to see if it'll float you or not. The high-speed boards will not float you until they get moving. They're not enough displacement, and so you actually have to do water starts to keep your body in the water until you get enough speed so that it'll start planing, and then they'll go fast. And then some years later we bought this, because why not? Because anything I have in the water should have a sail on it. And so these don't come with sail rigs, but they make a sail rig that you can put on there. So I have that. It's got all of 20 square feet. And it roller furls, and so you can get rid of it. And so we can either pedal, because it has pedal drive, Mirage drive, or we can paddle, or we can sail. And I use this a lot. My wife and I do a lot of that. And it turns out that in normal conditions, 5 to 10 knots, the sail actually adds like one more person, what it feels like. We normally go power sailing with it. We use it like a motor sail. So it stabilizes the boat and adds a little bit of power, but seldom will go only on their sail. Okay, and then my COVID project. My COVID project, a faculty member in 2020 said, we just cleared out a barn and found this derelict old boat. The boat was 65 years old. And so I got it and I put it together, rebuilt it. This is the ultimate sailing. 0 ballast, 120 pounds it weighs, only 60 square feet of sail. However, as we'll just determine, we talk about some formulas here, the power and force that a sail goes up by the square of the velocity that you're sailing in. And this winter, this is my lake, Alex, where we were this last Saturday. This is my lake, and I got 40 miles an hour in an 8-knot breeze. It'll go 4 to 5 times the speed of the wind. And the acceleration is mind-blowing. Lateral acceleration will do 2 G's in a turn. You have, now this, it's because there's Zero. Remember that you have the little thrust vector and you have the drag the drag. Guess how much drag there is on an ice skate? None. It's basically zero drag. And so when you tack on these boats, and we'll talk about tacking and jibing for those who understand it, but tacking is going into the wind to change your directions. Jibing is going away from the wind. When you tack, normally on most boats you harden up nice and hard, make sure you got your things all sheeted and hard, and you bring it around there so you coast through there and you hopefully grab the other side. If you're on a catamaran like a Hobie Cat, you have to back the jib almost always to have it continue around. It loses its speed so quickly. On these, you're screaming along at maybe 30 miles an hour in a 10-knot breeze, maybe just 30 miles an hour, and you're going to tack. First thing you do is you ease the sail. You let it luff, because as soon as you turn into the wind, what's the apparent wind now? 40. Because you were going 30, and there's a 10-knot breeze, so the apparent wind is now 40. You don't want a hardened up sheet wind yet, so you coast through that without any decrease in speed at all, and then as you finish the tack, then you bring it back in. Anybody watched any of the foil suspended America's Cup boats or Sail GP? If you ever look at that, they jibe like this too. Every jibe you do is a windward jibe. Now, again, jibing, for those of you who don't know much about it, jibing is when you're going downwind, and then you turn further downwind, and then change over to the other direction, and your sail will normally catch the back of it and flip across the other side, and it can be fairly dramatic, especially at high wind speeds. Scary dramatic. In fact, people do what's called a chicken jibe, which is a tack around, so you don't have to worry about that, and that's where people get, that's the reason why I call it a boom, I've heard. But at any rate, on this, when you jibe, they're windward. Because you're going 30 miles an hour, 10-knot tail, 10-knot breeze away. As you turn, you're still going 30 miles an hour. So now what's your headwind? 20. So when you turn like you're going dead downwind, but the boat still sees a direct 20-knot headwind. It's baffling. And then you just smoothly go to the other side. That's it. It's all windward. Exceptional. Exceptional. Let me tell you, there is nothing like this. In fact, it spoils you for other sailing a little bit.
So much fun.
Yeah.
It only has 60 square feet of sail, which means it doesn't have enough sail area to start. You have to push it. You have to wear spikes, and you run with it. And there's little pads. This is a little coffin thing I made for my grandson to ride with me. But on the other side, there's a little pad there, so you run with it and you jump on there, and then once you get about 5 or 6 miles an hour, then your apparent wind starts going up, and then you can sail. Okay, and then of course, I'm big on sailing robots. Alex is on the team this year, and so I just thought I have to advertise a little bit that we are WPI's four-time international winner on sailbots, and we've had a bunch of different sailbots. These are all sailing. This is a sloop rig. That's a cat rig. That we won. The first one we won was with the cat rig over there with a cut-down windsurfer sail that I cut down quickly to make that work. And then we started. Then we built it again with another big sail. We did, and we did our first wing sails. Didn't win, but we built it. But I like wing sails. And then we finally got the wing sail to win. And then we did some more upgrades here, and we won again with the wing sail the year before last. And this year we had another wing sail. Didn't win, thankfully, with that Cornell win this year, but it was okay. So, those are the kind of sailboats that I've had. Oh, that's okay. We'll do some analysis. This looks a little bit like this. This is what and Alex, you should have seen this already in a white paper I wrote. This tells you how a servo-controlled wing sail works. Not to confuse you folks, but when you think sailboats, you're thinking sails. Well, when I see sail, I'm thinking wing. Because if you looked at the early Wright brothers airplanes, in fact, most of the airplanes that were first built, they were just a single surface sail. They were curved, but they didn't have a two surface, just one surface. And indeed, you look at hang gliders, most hang gliders just have a single surface. And so it's a wing. It's just not a very efficient wing. A double surface wing is a little more efficient for sailing or for flying. And so that's the reason why we put it onto our sailboat. And also for those of you who are sailors, you normally have a control that controls the angle of attack of the wing, which is called the sheet, the main sheet. There is no main sheet control on our sailboat. In fact, this explains how it's controlled. This is freely spinning about the pivot. Absolutely freely spinning. There's nothing controls the angle of that. It's only controlled by this trim tab on the back side, which is, if you look at some things, you'll see a lot of boats are doing that. Real high-speed boats are doing that. So, a couple things here. This is the current world record speeds for water. This is the boat that did it. It's called the Sail Rocket. And as you might can guess from this, it's only designed for one direction. It can only sail on starboard tack, and it has to be towed out, and then it goes like a rocket in one direction. And this was quite amazing in 2012. Now, I've been to Namibia on IQP a couple times, and I know this beach, where this beach is. It's really quite surprising. A lot of winds, but it has a shoal that keeps no waves in it. And so this goes pretty fast. But I wanted to show you here, just week before, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, this happened. Oops.
It's all going to be about acceleration here. Rockwool Denmark
Stop.
lined it up.
Confirm.
They're going to be bang on time. Here we go. Beautiful by Rockwool Denmark.
Okay,
So
this is
fast.
Sail GP.
Great Britain again find the gap at the bottom of the line, but they won't have as fast an angle.
These are hydrofoil suspended catamarans. Now watch this leading boat. That's the Denmark boat. Here's the speed.
Big gust coming at Mark 1. It's on. Watch the speed.
This is the direction of the wind.
Fast.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Watch the speed.
And at mark number 1, it is Rockwool Denmark as they get the whole shot, and they go over 103.
That's 67 miles an hour.
Fastest speed in Sail GP ever.
USA goes triple digits as well.
They're suspended by
There's
hydrofoils.
a goose round there, Todd. Now, can they settle things up again? Try and set up for this next manoeuvre. Crucial here.
That's cool.
Okay. So the point is, over like about 13 years, they were going 75 miles an hour with a custom design that took about 10 years to develop that sail rocket, and that has a huge crew. It has to have how do I get back to where I was? How about here, huh? It has to have all the support stuff.
No, like right, towards the right, yeah.
Wait a minute.
Click on that.
Okay, that'll do it. Okay, here we go. Right, and now we actually have boats that are competing and doing tight coursework that are going quite close to it. So it's quite stunning what's happened here. And there's no hydrofoils here, except that, well, there is one hydrofoil, but you can't see. It's right here and goes like this and goes this direction. It's parallel to the wing. So as the wing is developing huge lift this way, this one's developing huge lift this direction. Both to hold this boat down and to counteract the side force of the wing. Yeah, it's really pretty. I was watching this guy. I've been watching him since about 2005 when he started doing this project, keeping up with what he was doing. It's really pretty surprising what they do. So that's pretty cool for water. Now on land, this was done by the New Zealand America's Cup team about 4 years ago. They did 140 miles an hour with this boat, with this craft. And again, its wing sail is the same general wing sail that we have on sailboat. Free rotating with the trim tab to control it. And they did that in, it's like a 22 mile per hour wind. They got 140. So that's pretty shocking. And that seems like that's awfully fast for a sail-powered vehicle until you go to ice. And this record of 143 miles per hour was set in 1938. At the time, that was the fastest thing that anybody had ever manned controlled. Faster than airplanes, faster than cars, faster than trains. So it's pretty stunning what you can do with ice. Now, I have something here. Wait a minute. Oh yeah. So this is my ice boat, just to see a little closer up to it. Again, this is all wood. Tiller steering here that controls through a push rod. These are 1/4-inch steel plates, sharpened up, razor sharp, 90 degree. Some people say 91, 92 degrees. I use 90. These are 8 feet apart. Your center of gravity is right here, which is the reason why you can pull 2 G's in a turn. Because you're 8 feet wide and your center of gravity is about 1.5 feet above the surface. The only limitation on G turning is when these things start breaking loose, then you have to counter steer like a car, like you drift them if it breaks through the ice. It's pretty stunning. I think I have a video of that. Yeah, here we go. This is the first time I ever went out on the ice boat, and this was in my pond in Auburn. The pond is only 500 feet across. Oops, oh, come on, stop, go back. Get back, there we go. It's the first time I've ever been out on the boat. I didn't have it rigged quite right. And it was probably about a, I don't know, 6 or 7 mile an hour wind here. The only time I ever went out without a helmet. I didn't realize how fast it was going to be. Holy crap. And I was just playing with it. Just not much breeze here. And I'm just still trying to figure out what's going on. Now, up here, I've got to jibe. You see, I'm scared. I started accelerating pretty fast. And I'm afraid to jibe, so I started going up, thinking I'll lose some speed. But it doesn't lose speed when you go up into the wind. Now watch, you'll see here. Up, okay, I'm going to start slow. Nope, it's not going to work. It's not slowing down. Okay, hold your breath and jibe. And of course, the jibes are so gentle. That's it. It just slowly goes across like a tack. It's absolutely. And then I'm trying to stop it up here, and you find out that you cannot stop them by. You ease the sail off, it doesn't stop. It doesn't because there's no drag. Just keeps going. You just can't, it's hard to stop. Now that's before I got the thing rigged a little better. I have it rigged a little better now. It's a little bit more, not quite so much mass band there. Anyway, so that's a quick introduction of my experience of the sailing, and I do have an ME and a aeronautical engineering degrees. So those are the kind of things that I like to talk about, and I've got pages of notes here that I made this morning, the topics that I normally talk about during the intro thing. But let's take some questions right now. Anybody have any questions about anything you've seen, or give me an idea of what you're thinking about? Yeah.
How big are the sailboats?
Oh, well, Alex, how big are the sailboats? No, not about. Come on. This is a quiz for my MQ. The class is what? Yeah, 2 meters. It's a 2 meter class. Although it's 2 meters long, 5 meters from the top to the bottom. You can't have over 1.5 meters depth, 50-inch depth. But you can go from the bottom of the keel to the top of the mast, cannot exceed 5 meters. Curiously enough, the international rules say 2 meters long, but it can be up to 3 meters wide. So you can do multi-hulls, but those have not been very successful in the competition. And by the way, for those of you who are you're the only senior here, I guess. Alex, right? Oh, you're a junior? Well, you're ahead of the game here, aren't you? We invite anybody who wants to be on the sailboat team to join in. It's a lot of fun. We've got a couple people now, freshmen and sophomores, that are on the team. They're going to be hanging out, just learn a little bit more about it. But so it's a good competition. But it's not about speed. It's about control. There's the fastest boat doesn't normally win the competition, because it's really a very challenging competition with a lot of autonomy. Like the one day there's a 8-hour fully autonomous challenge, and you get credit for how many miles you cover in this lap. 1 mile laps, and then you also get credit for how many hours you spent before pit stops. I mean, if you take a lot of water in, you're going to have pit stops to dump the water out. And if you're using a lot of battery for your controls, then you may have to charge the batteries. And so those are all things you try to avoid. Any other questions here about sailing or in general?
What kind of courses do we sail at the regattas?
What kind of courses at the regattas? Well, it depends upon what, in sailboat or just the normal regattas here.
Just normal.
Yeah, I've seen triangular courses. I've seen just windward-leeward courses. Sometimes they'll do a triangle, but then a windward-leeward, kind of finish. I think that depends upon
Depends.
the school, and it's not always 420s. You sail whatever class boat the host club has.
Yeah.
And so they can be FJs quite often, FJs or Flying Juniors or 420s or tech dinghies if you're going to be with MIT. Some days there's.
I don't know. I don't think we're doing dinghies this year. We're definitely doing 420s and 420Zs, doing FJs, and we're going to be doing Rhodes 19s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We're going to one Roads 19 guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love Rhodes.
Wow. So that's quite a, and the fixed keel version of the.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's quite a that we did years ago when I first started the team. We did Rhodes 19s and just to get guys some experience. And we actually sailed on the Navy 40s. We got the crew on their 40-footers too, because we did a lot more of the traveling around. We didn't just do dinghies. In fact, first couple years we didn't even enter NISA. We just sailed. So yeah, that's what you're used to sailing.
420s like.
But
usually-
the
yeah.
triangle courses or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you're saying on the America's Cup, well, especially Sail GP, which is that's where you saw that boat did 103 kilometers per hour, Denmark boat. Those are all just windward, leeward, back and forth. But their tracks will be identical. In fact, it's confusing to you because their jibe angles and their tack angles are the same, 90 degrees, and they're so much faster jibing than going downwind. They don't do any downwind sails. They're always flying. And so it's kind of confusing, and especially when you see them maneuvering, because a tack and a jibe looks the same from the camera views. And so it's interesting. The windward leeward's kind of weird that they do that. But normally on those Sail GP, they'll have a reaching start, like you saw. And so they have really fast reaching start. So it's short leg, and they come to the first mark, and then up and down, then have a reaching finish. So they right in front of the grandstand. So that's typically where they get their fastest speed, right across the finish line. So it's a lot of fun. But for those of you again that this learning to sail is not about learning to race. I want you to understand that there is no compulsion, or even there's a lot of people like myself who sailed for 48 years, never raced, never missed it, because I like going fast. And my wife would say that, Ken, anytime you see another boat, you're racing, and that is true. But racing is sail racing. You don't even have to. It's especially since they're all identical boats when you do NISA stuff, and if you don't understand, when you go to a regatta, you do multiple races, and you'll change boats. You will not have the same boat, because that just makes sure that the boats are all the same. And so it's really about strategy and tactics more than it's assumed that everybody knows how to make a boat go fast. And as a college sailor, you should be able to know how to make boats go fast. There'll be small tweaks there, but the real winners and losers are people who understand how to take the lifts and how to take the rules into your advantage. But for those who don't know much about sailing, don't worry about that. As long as and we will talk a little bit about the rules of sailing, because you need to know some basics, right-of-way rules, not this race, but just to understand so you don't hurt each other or other boats. And so we will cover that. Any other questions here? Okay, so now, what's confusing? You guys are newbies, right? No. Yeah. Okay, and so you've already been on the boat. You've already been out. But you guys been at Webster or not? Have they been?
Are you guys all Wednesday?
Yeah.
Or group 2? Yeah.
Yeah, so
So we had our first group go yesterday.
Okay.
And these guys are going out tomorrow.
Okay, well let me I think what I'm going to do, I've got a lot of stuff I'm really excited to talk about. Points of sail, parts of sailboats, types of sailboats, wing theory, tacking and jibing, right-of-way rules, safety, sailing history, sail trim, hull trim, speed polars, hull speed, crew duties, sailing vocabulary, boat balance, managing and outing. We're going to go to managing and outing first, because you're going to be going into, I don't know how you're going to do it with Sunfish, because you can put 2 people on Sunfish. Is that what you're going to do? Or not, you just throw them out there and say, go for it?
pretty much that's what we did yesterday.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about managing an outing. This is going to be for you guys, maybe it's your first time on a boat or whatever. a Sunfish is a really fun boat. There are about, I believe, around 450,000 of these hulls made. It's probably the single most popular boat in the world. And even though it's a great fun boat to learn on, it's also a very competitive racing boat. And you'll see that there's a very, very competitive feel with them, but they're a very simple boat. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. We still have cameras going, or do we not?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, well, I'd use a board here if I had a board.
I don't think
No,
there's.
there's no board there.
You can use the chalk.
Is it
Yeah, I know, but it's not going to be in the camera view. That's
You
okay.
can turn it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, so first off, let's understand what we said earlier about this is what kind of like this is what Sunfish looks like. Okay, is a single sail boat, one sail, has 3 spars. These spars are the metal things here. Okay, so the sail is held up by these 2 spars. This is called a cat boat because it has a single sail, and this is ironically this is called the mainsail even though there's only one sail. This is the mainsail, and technically the vertical member here is called the mast, and this is called the boom. Some people say that that's the sound that makes it hit your head in a jibe. It's good to keep that in mind because you're going to be sitting right here, and definitely the boom, if it came across quickly, would hit you on the head. And so you got to be careful about that. This other spars, I don't know what they call the other one, just the spar. Maybe they call that the mast. This should be technically the mast, but
Technically call it a sprit pole?
yeah, it could be. What is called pole? In general, you'll find unspecified things called poles, spinnaker poles, reaching poles, this kind of stuff you'll see on things. So, okay. So, tell me what the function of this is. We talked about it earlier. Remember? When we had the drawing of the wing. Oops, we had the wing on here. Here's the sail right here. And we said there's a huge force going this way, a little force going this way. We have a drag going this way, but there has to be a force going that way to counteract this side force. Yes. This is a particular kind of keel, and you will find out that there's 3 general types of underwater bodies. One is a keel, and a keel in general means anything, but specifically it means something which is fixed and deep. For example, on the big sailboat that we were family cruising on, it had 38,000 pounds of lead in the keel. That didn't move. Then you have, on 420s, you have a retractable underbody, which is called a centerboard. Centerboards have a major advantage in that if you're moving along quickly, you hit a rock, it folds up. This is called a dagger board, and it goes through a slot. If you don't have this, you will not be able to go to windward. It's called a dagger board, and just shove it down a slot. And the problem is, if you hit something, you're going to crack. You will either crack the board, or you can break. You can actually cause problems in the hull itself. But they're very, very efficient. And if you think about it, it's designed to develop this lift to counteract that side force. If I was going, and here's the wind is coming in this direction. If the wind was coming in this direction, I'm going downwind, and my sail is going to be kind of put out like this. There is no side force. And so traditionally, what people will do, and you'll do the same thing on 420s, even 470. If you're going downwind, you lift this up because it's just additional drag you don't need. So you need to understand that if you try to sail a Sunfish and don't put the dagger board down, you can go downwind and you can go downwind. That's all you can do. You can go downwind sideways or bow first. But either way, it's going to go downwind. So you put that on there. Okay. This is the rudder. Do not mistake it. This part here is not the rudder. This is a tiller. Now, if you were to look, let me go back here just a little bit here. How many people have had ES 2501? Love that course. I taught that for years. Introduction to Statics. I love that course. Do you love it? Do you love it?
I loved it.
We had this class together, and what we did for this class was build a spaghetti bridge.
Yeah, our final project was spaghetti bridge.
It was fascinating.
It was so much fun.
Let me just review what we had this other bit. We have a sail here, and it's going to produce some forces that are going to be one component like this and one component like this. And then you're going to have drag, which is pretty much the center line of the boat. Then you have this keel here. Okay, now if you look about this, here's the center of the boat. This force and this force are what's called a couple. And as you all know, every couple has its moment. That's a me joke.
Yeah, I think we got it.
You get it, thank you. A force couple is when you have equal and opposite forces, but they're displaced, they're not in line with each other. So that means if this is going to cause this thing to want to turn this direction because that's the direction from the right-hand rule. Okay. On the other hand, if these were like this is also a force couple. These are equal and opposite forces, but they're displaced. So this would tend to turn it in this direction because you can see that would go this way. Now, you would think that ideally you want these moments to be exactly equal so the boat would not want to turn at all. But that's not what we want. If you were sailing your sunfish and you fell off the boat, you would like the boat to stop. Not to sail off and never to be seen again. And so what boats have, almost every well-designed boat that's not computer controlled will have what's called they'll have lee helm, weather helm. It's called weather helm. And what that means is that the helm is another word for the steering assembly. That's called the helm. Whether it's controlled by a wheel or a tiller, that's called the helm. I'm going to take the helm, that means you're going to take over steering. Weather helm means that if you let go of the boat, so you have the tiller here, if I were to let go of the boat, the boat's going to automatically turn like this and go into the wind. That's a safety feature, which means that the more wind it has, the more you have to pull a little bit here, and the more you have to, the more lift you're going to develop in this direction to keep the boat from turning into the wind. And so you need to understand that if you hold the tiller in one spot, the boat will not go in a straight line unless nothing changes. As soon as any breeze is going to develop more weather helm, you have to pull a little bit on. Okay, so you got a mainsail. There is a line that, actually this is, I guess it goes up higher than this. There's a line that pulls up that spar. There's a rope that comes down there. That's called the halyard. You need to know that. So in this boat, there's only two lines you have to worry about. The halyard, which is a line that pulls this spark like this, so it opens it up. And then you're going to have a control here that goes down here. This is called the main sheet. What's it called? Oh yeah, that's where the name came from. Hauling yards. Hauling yards. Okay, that's what you need to know for sunfish. Now, in my notes here it says at Webster Sailing Association, there's a bay here, and a little dock here, and the wind may be coming, and you're going to have your boat somewhere along shore here, I guess. If you want to always, if the wind's coming, say, in this direction here, then you should always rig the boats on the leeward side, which is this side of the dock. You don't want you want the wind to be blowing a boat off, both when you come in and when you leave a dock. You always want to be on the leeward side if you can help it. So that means if you can bring the boat up, you bring the boat here and you hold it by the bow so that it naturally will go stream downwind. Never attempt to raise a sail unless the boat is pointing into the wind. You got a class in here?
Yeah.
So do we. That's your turn.
What?
It's your turn.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Email this recording to myself.
Yeah.
Oh, so guys,
We got this.